All right, I'm going to go through the AP Computer Science A Test 3 on Barron's. So help us review for the AP exam. 40 multiple choice practice problems. Looks like they have 46 on this practice test, so we'll see how many we can do. Student's test score can be any real number between 0 and 100. The intent of the following class is to print a student's score as a letter grade. So right away I noticed that there's multiple ifs. When you have multiple ifs, you either need to return a value to stop it to give only one value, or you need it to be an else if. There's multiple ifs in a row. If the value of score was 100, for example, it would print congratulations, good job, average score, barely passing, and fail score. So that's right off the bat what I notice. So when I call this method and I pass in test score of 75, 75 is not greater than or equal to 80, but it is greater than or equal to 70, 60, but not less than 60. So it looks like I'm not going to print failing score. So it would only print the two values inside of greater than 70 and greater than 60. So average and barely passing. Perfect. Okay, pretty good so far. Do something. I equals 1. I is less than or equal to 5. I plus plus. You loop through, and you have dashes starting at 1 up to I. And then J is reset equal to 1. These are two separate loops, so you can reuse the variable J, no problem. You reinitialize J equal to 1. J is less than or equal to 5 minus I. So what that's telling me is this will happen. When this happens few times, this will happen more times because I'm taking a starting value 5 and subtracting I versus going up to I. So as I increases in this one, more dashes. As I increases in this one, less stars. So when I is 1, we do 1 dash because 1 is less than or equal to 1. And when I is 1, we loop J 4 times from 1 up to 5 minus 1, 4. So 1 dash, 4 stars in the first line. C, D, so C or D. Dashes should increase. Are there 5 lines or 4? Pretty simple. D has 4 total lines. C has 5 total lines. It goes 1, 2, 5. So I would say that would be 5 total print lines. Telling me that it would be C as our answer. Okay, very good. Not A and not B. Suppose A and B are Boolean variables. The expression not A and not B will evaluate to false whenever A and B are both false. No, that's when it would evaluate to true. A is false and B is true. This A is false would be a total value of true. B is true would be a value of false. So these both need to be true in order for the whole thing to be true. So this would also be false. A is true and B is false. Well, that's the same thing. So that would always be false. It's the same thing but reversed. Since these are the same expressions, this would be false and this would be true. They both need to be true to be true. E, 1, 2, and 3. Oh, wait, no. Just 2 and 3. Yeah. Just 2 and 3 because A and B are false, making this whole thing true. Yeah. Almost misread the question. Writing some of these things out can usually be like beneficial to kind of keep track of where you're at. Don't try to do everything in your head like I am. So, which of the following is true about the statement about the classes shown? So clown is a subclass of circus performer. Acrobat is a subclass of circus performer. So each of the classes, circus performer, clown, acrobat, can have a method do trick that has different code. Sure. That seems true. It's called overriding. Clown could have do trick that is separate from a circus performer. Acrobat could have do trick that is separate from circus performer and clown. And then circus performer alone could have their own. Let's see. Both clown and acrobat inherit the constructors. No. So they use this term a lot in the Barrons, and it's inheriting constructors, which you call a constructor using super. You do not inherit. I don't know why they harp on the term inherit the constructor, but the answer is no, you do not inherit constructor. If circus performer has a private instance variable routine, both clown and acrobat can directly access it. No, only can access public methods and only inherit public methods or variables, public specifiers. No, same answer, same reason for C. Okay, only public things. Private instance variable joke, circus performer can access it. No, you can't access down. You can only a subclass inherits from a superclass and only public accessors. All right. Consider the following. Piggy bank class total is full. A getter, accessor method up here. Increment total, essentially a setter that increases. Is full. I don't see. Oh, Boolean is full. If its current value is true, change it to false. If it's okay, so change Piggy state is just swapping it. Increment total. Increase total by amount. We're not returning a value, so none of the returns, because it's a void method. Total is the name of the variable, so you absolutely can utilize it there. Plus equals amount. Yeah. Get total is a method that returns the total, but you can't assign something you return in that way. So, yeah. Cool. All right, consider the following piggy bank class again. So, which is a correct implementation of change Piggy state? If is free is full is going to change to false, else is full is going to change to true. So it basically swaps it, which is what we want. True to false or false to true. Is full is equal to not is full. That works as well. If is full is true, is full is equal to false. But if it's false, it would stay false. That's the issue with 3. So 1 and 2 only would be our answer there. All right. Consider the following guessing game. Consider the problem of writing a game in which the user thinks of integers 1 to 1,000 inclusive, and the computer tries to guess that number. Each time the computer makes a guess, the user makes one of 3 responses. Lower, higher, you got it. Suppose the game is programmed so that the computer uses binary search strategy for making its guess, meaning it checks the middle value, which cuts it in half, cuts it in half, cuts it in half, until you reach one value. Another way you could solve this is 2 to the power of what is the first number greater than 1,000, which 1,024, which is 2 to the 9th. Great. I don't want to do that math. I'm trusting you. Oh, it says 2 to the 10th. So is it 2 to the 10th?
Yeah, because 2 to the 8th is 256.
Here we go. Yep. And so you could either do it this way by writing it out. That's how you might double check yourself. You could also just use a calculator and do it the other way. And
you get one on the test.
okay. Consider the following guessing game. Oh, same thing. Suppose the computer starts by guessing random integers between 1 and 1,000, then uses a sequential search. So I don't know why they are utilizing sequential search. You will need to know linear search and binary search. Linear search is for a sorted method. Linear search is for an unsorted method. It does not need to be sorted. It just goes one at a time. Binary search it has to be sorted, and it cuts it in half with the middle.
What's the difference between sequential and linear?
Sequential has to be sorted. to be honest, I don't teach it, so I don't have like a great definition, but let's try a number and then see what they say, their explanation. The maximum guesses is 999. Suppose the user's number is 1,000 and the computer's first guess happens to be 1. In a search, the computer will try to each successive number until it gets to 999. Okay. So I saw somewhere, I mean, that sounds exactly like linear search.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it should be the same if it's just sorted. Because
okay.
numbers are sorted in the...
I guess I saw a question where I thought they were synonyms, and then I saw a question that was like kind of contradicting that a little bit, but all right, the entree class has a method print recipe with the following header. The method is overridden in each of the subclasses shown above. A client class recipe book. So when they say a client class, it's where they're writing a main method where they can create objects of any of the types. Private instance variable, all recipes declared as follows. Entrees, all recipes. So it's an array of entrees. Assuming that all recipes is correctly initialized, the following piece of code is now executed to print a recipe for each subclass dish. So e.print recipe. So which concept is illustrated by this code? Not overloaded methods. Not procedural abstraction is ignoring an unnecessary detail. So yeah, it's not overloaded, it's an overridden method. So poly means multiple types, and so I think it's actually encapsulation, but I'm not positive. We're going to try it. It was polymorphism. So using polymorphism, the correct print recipe method for a given subclass will be selected at runtime. Note that the print recipe method must be overridden in each of the entree subclasses for this to happen correctly. Overloaded methods are two or more methods in the same class that have the same name but different parameter list. Information hiding is use of private to restrict access. Procedural abstraction is using separate methods to encapsulate each task in a class. Encapsulation is the combining of data fields and methods in a class. Okay. Poly meaning multiple, morph meaning forms. So I thought that might be the answer. I should have stuck with my gut. Kind of an example of something that you might need to do on the test, but don't overthink it. So entree originally was entree, but when we print recipes, they're going to print recipes for all of the different types. So that's why it's in multiple forms and why that would be correct. Which is a false statement about static methods. So static methods are methods assigned to the entire class. Like static variables are assigned to an entire class. The CodeHS example was print rect equations, which printed in one long string the formula or the area of, the formula for the area of a rectangle is length times L times W. And then it printed another line. The formula for the area or the perimeter of a rectangle is 2 parentheses L times W. So L plus W. So those methods would be assigned not to an individual rectangle object, but any object of the rectangle class. They would all share that method instead of each having their own value for that method, like get width or get height or set width or set height would be specific to a rectangle. This is general to the entire class. So static method can use static variables in its implementation code. Of course it can, because a static variable is also assigned to the entire class. If a class is such that it doesn't make sense to ever create an object of the class, then all methods of that class should be static. Yeah, probably. So this would be referring to the math class. The math class, you never create an object. The math class has all static methods in it. Math.absolute, math.random, all of them are static. You never have to create a math object. Actually, they make for simplicity or to not confuse you, they actually make the math constructor private so that you cannot create a math object. So this is also true. So all methods in a class that has a main method and no private data fields should be static. That also is true. We haven't utilized, and they don't ask you about main methods really much on the test, but good to know. A static method should not be invoked in an object of a class. Invoked, so I think they're saying like R1 if it was a rectangle, dot, and then the method name. An object can invoke or call a static method, although you don't need to. There's no reason not to just use the class name. Let's see this one. Accessor methods in an object class may be static depending on the value that's being accessed. Probably not. Accessor methods in an object class may be static depending on the value that's being accessed. I guess if it's accessing a static variable. Oh man, so they all seem true. Static method should be not be invoked by an object of a class. It can be. So I guess it should not be is false. Are they? Let's see what they. Now, I'm not surprised. The Barron's tests are kind of harder and trickier, and honestly, some of the questions aren't clear enough, just like this one, that I'm going to miss some. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world if you miss some. It's more about understanding all facets of the question that I'm really looking for. So, it doesn't make sense to make an accessor static because an object will then not be able to invoke that method. Note that a static method belongs to the whole class, not an instant. It therefore should be invoked in a client class by using the name of the class that defines the method. For example, a bank account class, one might have bank account.getInterestRate. If a specific object is used to invoke the method instead of the class name, a good compiler will give a warning. Okay. So like we said, accessor methods in an object class may be static. So it's true a static method should not be invoked by an object of a class. It can be, but it should not be. I guess that's the key term there. So the goal of the accessor is to reference an instance variable or grab and get access to an instance variable. Okay. I don't love the question, of course, but a programmer needs to produce a random int n in the range 20 less than or equal to n less than or equal to 30, so between 20 and 30 inclusive. A statement that does this correctly is, so what are we looking for in this problem, right? We're trying to figure out what our range is. Well, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 30, that's 11 numbers. So my range is 11. So I need a times by 11. So that gives me B as an option, D as an option. Boom, right there. Then you add 20. 20 has got to be our minimum. And then times by 11 gets you all the way to 30. Since math.random is 0 up to but not including 1, so 0 to 0.9 repeating, times that by 11, you get value 0 to 10.9 repeating. You never cast this to an int. Interesting. So that's why I need to double check myself and go down to D as our answer. You want to cast that to an int, so your values are 0 to 10 plus 20 makes it 20 to 30. All right, assuming that both flyer and bird have default constructors which are valid in a client class, flyer F1 equals new bird, bird B equals new sparrow, flyer F2 equals new sparrow. So has to be a superclass on this side and a subclass on this side, or they have to be the same class. Say that again. You think they should all be? Okay. So flyer, new bird, that sounds good. Bird equals new sparrow. Sparrow extends bird. Flyer equals new sparrow. So 1, 2, and 3. Very good. I guess there's probably, yeah, 2 parts to this. So sparrow, sparrow, bird, bird. Oh, man, they made it easy for us this time. So which method calls would be legal? So they have to be in the class that they're in, or they have to extend a public version of that class. So s.fly sparrow has access to the superclasses, extends bird, extends flyer. So it's a subclass and then a subclass of flyer. So that's good. B.fly low, bird cannot go down and access fly low. It only can go to its superclass. S.fly low, sparrow, of course, can use itself, but B, it has to be of the sparrow type. So a sparrow is a bird, but is B a bird always a sparrow? No, there's more than one bird there. So the 3 would also be wrong. So I believe it's B2. Oh, I didn't look at the parameter S sparrow. Oh, that works because it's a sparrow getting passed in there. Did I? No, I did that wrong. I just said bird cannot go down and access sparrow. I just misclicked there. Don't do that. All right. Print something s.length greater than 0. System.print s.substring 0, 1. Recalling. All right, so we're going to print the second letter all the way to the end. Excuse me, we're going to print the first letter, and then we're going to get rid of the first letter. So it just prints string S even with a length of 1. Yeah. Print string S. Yeah. So it just prints the first letter, then it recursively ignores the first letter. Prints the first letter, then calls it again, ignoring the first letter. So, like, giving back the rest of the string except the first letter. And then it keeps doing that. So, largest value in an array, max. Okay, so max, you do not want it to equal 0 because if all the values are negative, the max would be stored as 0. You also don't want it to be stored as the max value because then it obviously will be it'll be max value because it's starting off equal to max value, so nothing's going to be greater than that. That's like 2.14 billion. And so there's probably not going to be a value in there, and yeah. Min value works because it automatically updates. An array at 0 works because we're comparing it to that value. So 1 and 3 will correctly find max. All right. An opera company has a large list of donor records sorted alphabetically by name. Each record contains the amount of money donated in a current year. Which following represents the most efficient way to find the name of the top donor in the current year? So they're testing you on, is sorting or searching faster? If it's already sorted, can we utilize that in some way? So the most efficient way to find the name of the top donor. It says it's sorted, but it's sorted alphabetically. We're looking for if it was sorted By amount, that would be helpful. This is not helpful. So we cannot use binary search. We do not want to sort it. That is longer than searching. Sequential search. So earlier I was wrong. I think they're using the term sequential search for what we normally call linear search. I remember it on the test as always being linear search, but maybe you can, now you know both. Int n equals some positive integer, for int I equals n, I is greater than 1, I divided yeah. So you're just taking I and just cutting it in half, essentially. In terms of m, how many times we'll process, so it's going to be 2 to the power of, because what's the opposite of, you're repeatedly dividing it by 2 until you reach 1. So it's kind of like that binary search problem earlier. If you keep dividing a value or the number of values by 2 until you reach 1. So it's definitely not going to be n, 2n, n divided by 2, probably not. So I just put in, like, if you put in 10,000, you know it's not going to be 10,000 or 20,000 or 5,000 or 0. So n divided by 2, if n is even, and okay, I missed that. I equals n. How many times will process I be executed? So if it was 10,000 and I is dividing by 2 every time, if n is 8 and the loop is executed when I is 8, 6, 4, and 2. Oh. So if it's 100 and you divide it by 2, that'd be 50, then 25. Wait, why is it? It's not minus equals 2. They screwed up. Thank goodness. So they meant to put minus equals 2 because then you're going down by 2 each time. Divided equals 2. If it's 100, it would be 500, 250, 125, 64, 32, 16, 8, 4, 2, 1. That's 10. I mean, you're only doing 10 processes, right? Does that make sense? So another thing with Barron's is they have some typos. That was throwing me off that we missed that one. Okay. They probably meant minus equals 2. Like if you have 8 in there, I is 8, then 6, then 4, then 2. Because if it was minus minus, it would just happen n number of times. And so minus equals 2, it would happen half of n. And it says 5, 7, 5, 3, 1, or 4 times. So, yeah. This is the correct answer. Pos int, even pos int. Pos int p equals new pos int. Pos int even equals new pos int. New even pos int. Pos int p equals new even pos int. Okay. All right. So if you remember, we've kind of talked about this one in test 2, but even pos int, there's no constructor, so it will create a default constructor here with a default call to pos int. Now in this version, pos int has a default constructor. So just doing even pos int, calling this, will successfully call the constructor for pos int. So 2 is correct. Pos int p equal new pos int also will work correctly because it just has that default constructor. So 1 and 2 are fine. So 3 must be fine in some way, shape, or form. Which would cause an error? Thank you. I would misread all of the questions if people didn't check on me. So this one would cause an error. There we go. Which of the following is a correct implementation for the get next even method? Oh, it's already even. Get next even should just return a public way of accessing the value from the superclass, because value is not in here. So you have to do get value is public to return value. Return get value plus 2. Now, does 3 work? Yeah, so probably not, because this is referring to this object dot get value. So you're specifying that you want to make sure you're using get value in this class. This is what's tricky about some of these tests, is that maybe they're just miswriting code on what you shouldn't do. But I would agree that I don't think that would be correct. So we would say 2 only. But it could be that it still works, and it looks like it does. They were kind of setting you up to be tricked. So you can use this dot, and it will inherit. It still is an object, in my opinion. The reason why it works is this is still an even pos int object. So it still has inherit. It still is able to inherit get value, although specifying which that super.get value or just using get value would be more correct or make more sense. So consider a date class whose partial representation is shown below. Month, day, year. So we create a month, day, year, pass in those values. Other methods and constructors are not shown. There is no compare to method in the class. All right. D1 equals new date 2/17/1948. All right. They're just testing for equality. So you need to know your equals versus dot equals. All right. Equals would not be true because you're pointing to 2 locations in memory. And that's what equals is comparing to with objects. D1 dot equals D2 will cause a compile time error. That's not true. So, yes, although there are no methods shown that are equals methods, the object class has dot equals, has toString method, has some other methods that are available to us, dot equals being one of them. The test if D1 dot equals D2 is true. Yes. The test if D1 dot compare to D2 equals 0 is true. So compare to is more talking about strings, I believe. D1 dot equals D2 is true. Why is this not true, Barron's?
You haven't defined the dot equals in that, so then it's just going to be seen if they're represented by the same memory address or the same object. But since they're different objects, you would have to use some other method which is already defined.
Gotcha. So why is E? Oh, it will cause a compile time error. Well, I didn't read that. All right.